Hello, welcome to my channel, another bibliophile reads. My name is Greg, and I'm doing an announcement for my participation in the May of the Moderns event. This is an event created and hosted by Margaret Pennard. And in this event, it encourages readers to read books from the modernist era, roughly 1901 to 1945. And there are going to be 4 prompts for this event. The first prompt is Irish Celtic. This is where you're going to read a book from someone who's Irish or Celtic, or a book that's translated from the Irish or the Celtic. And I'm going to do a reread. This is a book that I read probably about 25 years ago. It is also a favorite book of my buddy Alan from Big Hard Books and Classics. And that is going to be Dubliners by James Joyce. Earlier this year, we did a live event reading and talking about 2 of the short stories in that book, Evelyn and Grace. So now I'm going to finish reading that book in May to complete the May of the Moderns event for Irish literature. Now, they said, I read it about 25 years ago, and to be honest, my memory of that time just is not all that great. But already Alan has made me a playlist of a lot of videos and a lot of criticism, so I can dig really deep into the Dubliners. Prompt number 2, POC, written in Africa, Asia, Latin America. This is trying to get readers to read outside of the European standard or the American standard, or should I say, the United States standard. And I have 2 books which I am probably going to read. The first is going to be The Underdogs, and this by Mariano, Azuela. Now, I probably have read this in the 80s, and this is a very old translation. I am probably going to upgrade my translation because there's a newer translation. If I am truly ambitious, I'm also going to take a look at the original Spanish. I can read just a wee bit of Spanish, enough to suss out a couple of sentences, but not to read the entire book. But this is a book of the Mexican Revolution. And to be honest, who can't love a revolution? It is just something that pleases my soul to talk about revolutions. So I'm going to read this. I'm also going to try to read some poetry by Langston Hughes. He was an African-American poet in the United States. He first started publishing around 1920s, somewhere there, and lived in the 1960s. So he started in the modernist era and lived beyond that. But the reason I want to read him is that recently for the Book 2 prize, I read a book about African Americans in World War II, and it contained a chapter of Langston Hughes traveling abroad to report on World War II. And it was my favorite chapter of that book, I think. So I want to read some poetry of Langston Hughes in this May of the Moderns, because although I don't think he ever lived in Africa, he's certainly of African descent. Prompt number 3. The Man Without Qualities by Robert Musil. This is an Austrian novelist It was written between 1930 and 42, I believe. And he wrote it in about the pre-World War II era in Austria, and definitely modernist. And I'm also doing this as a buddy read with, so far, Sandy at Miss Reads a Lot and Fraser Simons at Springboard Thoughts. And this will probably stretch into June because this is 1,774 pages long. But if I read the first volume of this, which is only a measly 700 and some odd pages, I am going to count that as reading the book. Because originally there are 4, or I should say 3 volumes to this book, and a postscript of a 4th volume, which was his notes for additions. If I read this volume in May, I'm going to count that as a completed book because it was originally published separately. So that's my plan for translated literature. Also, the Underdogs, they said, was translated from the Spanish, so that will also count towards my translated literature prompt. Prompt number 4, Backlist. Guess who's coming back? This is Robert Musil again. I originally bought this book in 1995 when it was originally published, and I was working for Borders Books and Music. Or maybe it was just Borders Books by then, and we didn't have a music department. Memory fails after so many years. But I have owned this book for more than 20 years. I have read about the first 100 pages, which corresponds to the first volume. But I never continued the rest, and I want to continue the rest. So this is going to count what is on my backlist. Because again, I've owned this book for more than 20 years and have not read it. So I think that definitely counts as a backlist TBR. The final prompt, number 5, is genre, an identifiable genre read. As of now, I'm going to read The Glass Key by Dashiell Hammett, originally published in 1931. This is the 3rd book in the Continental Op series, the unnamed middle-aged fat detective who goes after crime in the Depression era. And I absolutely love Dashiell Hammett. He was a pioneer of the mystery genre, and I pretty much created some of the hard-boiled detective series. So that is one I'm really looking forward to. In addition to genre, I am going to be participating in Sean D. Steadfast's, as of now, unnamed book group about reading dead authors. There are 2 prime candidates, Edgar Wallace, who did publish some mystery books in the modernist era, and Sax Rohmer, who again published his Fu Manchu mystery books beginning in 1914, which would also qualify for the modernist era. Those are very strong additional books. Depending on how it goes, I may have to drop The Glass Key and include the Edgar Wallace or Sax Rohmer as my main candidates for this prompt. But who knows? Maybe I'll read 2. Well, that is my plans for May of the Moderns. Thank you so much for watching, and keep on reading.